All right, so it's 2 o'clock, 1 minute past 2 East African time, GMT +3. Again, I'll say welcome to all of you. We thank you again for making time this Monday, and we also appreciate for accepting the invitation to be here with us. So we'll wait, I think, a few minutes, but in the meantime, I will just put up what we are going to start off on. I will just put up this, and then run through the format. So Greenline Technologies is a Pan-African company that has got one mission: to see the connection, to see a fully connected Africa. And we believe that connection should be secure. So that's what we do and what we are based. And we really are delighted to have two experts with us to share insights with us on quantitative cyber risk analysis. This is something that we believe is important for the cyber risk industry, and even where we are headed to right now in the age and times we live in, we need to be aware of what this is about and why it is important. Just to put it into context, as we kickstart at exactly in the next 3 minutes, I will, for those who have been in this industry, are aware of one threat actor known as the Lazarus Group. And I'm not blowing their horn here, but I just want to point out one incident that they were very bold in, when they made an attempt on the Bangladeshi Central Bank. In 2015 is when they were able to infiltrate the weakest point that they had taken time to figure out where it was. And then they stayed in quietly for another 1 year, working their way up to their main target. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this is because the threat actors we have outside there take their time, they're patient, they do their study, and they look at every aspect of the whole organization to make an attempt. So why have I brought this out here is because we as organizations, we as countries, we as thought process leaders, we should be taking this conversation in the form that we should be also modeling our business. We should be modeling our goals. We should be modeling our capabilities. And we will speak about that moving forward. So without much further ado, as we begin, I will put out the agenda of the meeting today. So as I've said, the importance of cyber risk quantification and why the time to act is now. This is very important. Our key guests will be speaking about this, and from their wealth of experience, which is truly a wealth of experience, they will shed a lot of light on this. Also, they'll discuss the FAIR methodology. For those who are new to what FAIR is or who don't know what FAIR is a non-profit organization known as the Factor Analysis for Information Risk, and why they're a globally recognized approach in quantifying risk. Our two guests will speak about that too. Also, there will be the value of cyber risk economics and why businesses need to approach cybersecurity in economic terms. We need to speak the language of the business. We need to be aware that it's the language of the business, and we need to put that in a way that we can be, it's no longer about an IT affair. It's not a technological affair, and that's why they'll speak to that. They'll also speak about the significance of business modeling in managing cyber risk. This is very key, and why we should take it into consideration and why it is important in this day as we talk about cyber risk quantification. And then they will close it off with real-world cases, case studies to help us apply these concepts in organizations in what we do. So it's a packed agenda. The great team we have here is going to really take us through this. And first, I'll start off with Mr. Adham Itu. Now, Mr. Hamitum, I've met him. He's a very humble gentleman, and I really appreciate for that. And Mr. Hamitum is the FAIR Institute Advisory Board member and co-chair of the Jordan chapter. He's also the serving director of policy and compliance at the National Cybersecurity Center of Jordan, with an extensive wealth of experience over a decade in satellite communications, IT, IS, cybersecurity, and cyber risk management. Also as a board member and as an advisor for both the FAIR Institute and the ISACA Global. He serves as a bridge between the enterprise and technology, facilitating the integration and alignment, emphasizing collaboration and alignment to help organizations address evolving cybersecurity threats and secure their infrastructure. That is Mr. Adam Etum, is going to be one of our guest speakers today. So look forward to that. The next gentleman who is going to be with us as a guest speaker is going to be Mr. Mohammed Abdul Rahim. I have also met him. He's a brilliant man, very humble also. And this is Mr. Mohammed has been with us, works for Octopian Security, and he is the FAIR, he's an advisory board member for FAIR and the FAIR core chapter, that is for the core chapter of Jordan. Over and above that, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Rahim is a senior executive with more than 28 years experience who envision and executes robust strategies focused on digital transformation, enterprise risk management, and national security. He's a true advisor for delivering critical national and international leadership practices for world-leading law enforcement and defense agencies. He's recognized for successfully implementing several mission-critical systems, including law enforcement, task force management, national unified geospatial databases, and national emergency and crisis management systems. So, to sum it all up, the two gentlemen have got a wealth of experience, and they are here to share it with us and participate in this webinar. So, apart from that, I think it's straight on. I will let the two gentlemen begin with the agenda points, and they will continue to present, and they'll continue to take us through this webinar discussion this afternoon. So, Mr. Mohammed and Mr. Adam, I hand it over back to the two of you, and you can start us off this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, for the introduction, and we look forward to share what we learned and what we are doing in such complex domain. And we hope at the end we can drive value at your enterprise, and so we can take what we will learn today to the next level. Just allow me to share my slides. Just 1 second, please. I just want to make sure everyone can see my slides titled under Crash Course on Quantitative versus Qualitative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. I would like to start highlighting the goals of risk management. Why do we need the risk management? As we can see, risk management has two important goals. The first one, we need to minimize uncertainties. We need to understand what kind of threats that will undermine our missions, whether we are working in cybersecurity or working in business or working within divisions within the enterprise. The second important goal for using and enhancing risk management as our good practice, it is a useful tool for risk for decision making. Anybody doing decisions on daily basis at personal level, at functional level, at enterprise level, without knowing that he is using certain kind of risk concepts, but not in the sense of the things that we are understanding from cyber threats perspective, but same concepts can be applied. For example, senior executives at enterprises, when they do or making some decisions, they need to see numbers, they need to see data, they need to see history, they need to see performance, they need to see so many parameters before they decide which decision they should take or should make. Risk management help us to make and improve our decision-making process, especially in cybersecurity, as all of us know that it is a complex domain and it has so many parameters, so many complexities we need to take into account when we are thinking and taking a decision or cyber decision. As we can see here, business landscape has so many things we face every day, and we hear about several kinds of attacks. We may wonder why certain kind of attacks happened against my assets or against my enterprise. We need to think of big picture. We need to look at things from not only from technological perspective. We need to understand the threat landscape and how this threat landscape can affect and impact the business landscape. Through the next slides, we will demonstrate these concepts more deeply. Here, for example, we're taking like two scenarios like client data theft and accidental data disclosure. This is like qualitative estimation and assessment for these two scenarios. As we can see only labels like high, very high, moderate, low, very low. For the impact as well, we can see very low, low, moderate, high. We can see the correspondent colors like on the left side with the right side. It just not giving me any sense of what kind of high this matrix is indicating. High of what, related to what. So this is only like initial steps to understand the risk and the threat landscape. This matrix is helpful, but is insufficient to understand deeply how such a scenario can impact my business. Here, when we think qualitatively, we need to understand that there is a huge limitations. When we are watching a race or something like car race, we need to describe the car moving speed. We cannot describe in a number, kilometer per hour or something. We say this car is very fast. This is the qualitative. Okay, so we cannot make a proper measurement that is helpful for us to make a decision or to decide based on this information. Here are some challenges for the qualitative thinking or for the qualitative assessment. I will read these questions and I hope you are reading with me as well, so we can comprehend the concept on the of the qualitative, and at the same time we need to realize the challenges that the qualitative assessment bring to the table. The first thing is your fast the same as mine? When we are assessing or evaluating certain event or a moving car, as we witnessed in the last slide, what is your formula for speed? Is it the same as mine? Do we use the same model to assess or to measure which car I'm referring to? On a particular one, slowest, fastest, an average for all of them. All of these parameters we need to take into account and see to realize what kind of description we are sharing with others. Which part of the track am I referring to? Corners, the straightaways, average over the entire track, this lap, or an average for the entire race. So as we can see, these challenges are the parameters of risk. The qualitative approach, unfortunately, is incapable to answer all of these questions because you are labeling or you are answering as a label. Any one of these questions will be answered as a label: fast, slow, very fast, very slow. These are insufficient. Now, when we are measuring the speed, we need two models. The first one, the scope of what's being measured. We need to be very specific and thoughtful of what we are trying to measure. Which car? We need to identify and be very specific of which cars we are or which car we are going to measure its speed. Which part of the track? Which laps? So we can see now we have three layers of or three parameters just to scope what we are going to measure. The second model that we are need in this process is analytical model with data. What kind of data we need to collect to measure the speed? We need time, we need distance. If we don't have the time and if we don't have the distance data, definitely we are unable to measure or come up with the measurement of certain car speed. And how to apply these data? See, as all of us know that speed equals distance over time divided over time. So we can see, or we can say, like, car is moving 5 kilometers per hour or per second or per like minute. All of these parameters are required to say I have measured the speed in this number. Now we need to measure the risk. In the same sense of measuring the speed, now we need to look at risk that it is a very abstract thing. It consists of several parameters. Just giving it a label is insufficient. We need to dissect the risk and go deeply at several layers to understand what kind of risk of specific type can impact my mission and impact my enterprise. The two models that we need to measure the risk, the first thing is the scoping, the second thing is analytical or the analytical model. The scoping requires that we need to identify the asset, what kind of threat, what kind of threat vector, what kind of controls are in place or related to this kind of threat, what type of event, like is it affecting the confidentiality, or is it affecting the integrity, or is it affecting the availability. The analytical model, we need to collect data. After we collect the data, we need to apply the equation. The equation should be unified across all kinds of calculation and measurements. So you have at this time good estimation and good understanding of the risk nature, that if it happens in reality, it will impact your enterprise. At this moment, we are looking at risk of something uncertain. We need to measure and we see if the results of measurement is very high and impactful, we need to take action. This is in a nutshell of comparison between like measuring the risk and measuring the speed. So we need to take into our thinking, measuring risk, it is the same as measuring the speed. we need to be specific, like to identify the specific asset. We need data, we need model, we need equation to apply on this model so we can get a result. The target here is not to be very, very accurate. It's just estimate of numbers. Here we can see on this slide some shortcomings and drawbacks on the qualitative approach. Qualitative approach, unfortunately, again, is unable to tell us how much risk reduction is enough or how much risk is there. Another thing, qualitative does not answer where are the opportunities to control the exposure. At the same time, the qualitative does not provide comparison on one-time event once recurred or happened again and again in the year or in the next year. So another shortcoming for qualitative approach, it does not like give us a prediction on the future. It just provide the label. Beyond the label, there are so many vague answers, so many lack of data, so many overlap of understanding to the similar labels. Another thing for qualitative drawbacks, how many laws equals a high rating? For example, we cannot multiply apple and orange and get a high risk. This is in our daily life, it's a pure nonsense. And nobody of us as experts and professionals prefer to deal with the nonsense and base his decisions on such thinking. The qualitative approach can be summarized as the apple multiplied by orange and give me high risk, or give me another different label, name it as you want. This will not answer your questions about the kind of risks that will impact your enterprise or impact your assets. Now we go to the other side of the approaches, the quantitative assumptions. So here we need to base, or we need to think of quantitative approach. It is based on measurement. So we need to think of money, we need to think of numbers, we need to think of empirical data. We need to think of, I need to obtain some data to understand the threat, to understand the risk, to understand the impact, to understand that the invisible impact that could be related to certain risk if it is materialized. Here's some assumptions on the quantitative. We think that we have more data than we think. For example, we need less data than we think. There is a useful measurement that is much simpler than you think. These assumptions, for example, come to our, or cross our minds, or cross our minds, but sometimes we face some difficulties or misunderstanding of these assumptions. But we need to look at the quantitative assumptions as, I don't have anything, but I need to build everything from here. Collecting data, understand what kind of things I need to go deeply and not deceived by labels. These assumptions can be translated to several scenarios. Now we will see how these things will be helpful for us. Now, when we see, like, for example, qualitative approach, it is give rating for the risk, high, medium, low. These kind of risks, it's okay. We can say these threats, probable threats, could be a risk, but these risks that usually found in risk register and labeled and colorful, nice colors, these things are not associated with certain scenarios. This is another thing. The qualitative approach does not provide an answer how should I link these risks to scenarios. The quantitative approach provides us a thoughtful thinking, and you can formulate our thinking into a framework so we can develop a scenarios or multiple scenarios against certain threat. And you can relate these scenarios to your context, to your enterprise. For example, I will go through these four or five analysis approach. So we can think of risk like we are doing some zoom in on certain threat, just a single parameter. For example, the prerequisite: conduct calibration exercise to ensure your stakeholders are comfortable with the estimate. Now, the second thing, identify scenario scope, identify the asset at risk, identify the threat community under consideration. You may be confused of some terms like calibration, some assets at risk, a threat community. These things should be through the session be explained, and slowly. Please feel free to ask any question if it's unclear or make some confusion to your understanding. The calibration thing is here. We need to do some measurement, and we repeat the measurement until we reach the target value, which is within the acceptable range of the estimation. Asset at risk, for example, my workstation, my server, my data center, my enterprise, my people, my processes, all of these things could be an asset at risk, which is where are the value in the asset. We can consider this as an asset. We need to identify the threat community. The threat community here, for example, it is who could be capable to exploit the vulnerability that I have on my asset. They could be coming from weak threat actors, or they could be coming from strong threat actors. The first two are for the preparing the meeting. For the second thing, evaluate loss event frequency, estimate the probable frequency. Now we are estimating, and we are not, for example, we just need to look back and get back to our historical data that we have with the IT department or with the asset owner, and understand how much data we have to make this estimation of certain event. Okay, frequency of materializing the risk itself. Did we face this in the past? If we do, how many times we had in the past 3, 4, 5 years a similar event coming from similar threat community? These can be obtained through workshops as well. We need to evaluate the loss magnitude in this thinking. We need to see in case such event happened in the past, how much the loss was, and so on. And do we have controls in place that mitigate the impact from materializing such kind of risk or no? This kind of thinking is make our thinking very critical. And now we are doing 4 steps, like we are doing calibration, we identified the asset at risk, we identified the threat community, we identified the probable frequency, or estimated the probable frequency. As well, we estimated the loss of probable impact. The loss here, for example, is not only one kind. We have several kinds of losses. We will come to them. For example, the productivity loss, the operational recovery, the incident response, fine and judgment cost. All of these costs are incurred on our enterprise due to the impact that is resulted from the risk that was materialized in the certain period. So collectively, we think now it is not one form of loss. We have several forms. We should sum all of them and see the sheet or see the cost incurred from this risk and see, okay, one incident of ransomware cost us like 5 million. 3 million are distributed between legal and productivity and recovering the system, and 2 million for example, for incident response. The fifth step here for the analysis approach to develop a scenario, we need to derive and articulate the risk. Now we have, after we finalize the workshop, we have determined the risk, and all of these results are estimated, and we can document these things, and we can build on from this scenario several things after then, so we can transform all of what he collected into financial terms through inserting this as input to the analytical model that we need to get some numbers from. Here, just example similar to the example, but I will just I'll look here, for example, just to look at this one. For example, employee accidentally sends sensitive client data to the wrong client. Just to apply the analytical thinking that we talking about, and you have seen on the slides, we can see to develop a scenario, we need asset at risk. The asset at risk we can see to the next here, ad hoc process for client support to send confirmation email to clients, including address and full payment details. Threat community. Now, while we are talking about employee, it is insider threat. So the threat community here is coming from privileged insider. Somebody has access to the enterprise data and information, and he can impose some damage. The motivation here, we have malicious motivation, we have accidental. In this thinking, and go down to the form of losses, in this way, we have better understanding, better comprehension to a single type of risk that is associated with threat community, associated with the asset, associated with the loss, and several kinds of losses. I hope this give you a brief or a hint about the quantitative approach, why it is very important, and how deeply you go to make good understanding to your threats landscape. Here is now after we finishing scenario development, for sure we should not rely on a single scenario. Definitely we need several scenarios, but when we use a quantitative approach, if we manage to get like from 5 scenarios to 10 scenarios, which is in extreme cases, you could have 10 scenarios of risks. We should be like confident that we are doing a great thing. We are developing scenarios, and we are transforming these scenarios into impact on our enterprise, and collectively we should focus on the top 5, top 6, top 10. It's up to you. At the end, building the scenario for one case, it is not different for building another scenario for different kind of attacks or for different kind of threat actors. Now, after we finish like scenario development, we should be able to quantify the risk, because quantifying the risk, as you have seen in the recent slides, it requires like data, require analytical model, require to be specific against which skill you need and which specific assets you need. Okay, now we come to this. How much are we spending on security? You cannot answer this question at all, no matter how are you expert in your field or how many years of expertise or experience you have. You cannot answer this question without using a quantitative risk assessment or the quantitative approach, because here we are talking about numbers. Obtaining numbers cannot come here like suddenly. It can be brought by a scientific approach and rigorous model that can be used across all scenarios. In this way, you are dealing with empirical data, empirical numbers that will be helpful to make good decision. And as I mentioned in the first slide, one of the most important goals for risk management is to minimize uncertainty and enhance and improve decision making. Using a quantitative approach is enhancing this decision making by giving you a chance and opportunity to deal with numbers, not with labels. And this approach, the FAIR approach, will be one of the greatest approaches to deal with the numbers and understand how much investment you need, how much investment in security have you spent, and you can drive efficiency and effectiveness through understanding these numbers and understand where are the gaps, where are the most impactful events are damaging my enterprise, where I need to prioritize, when I need to direct my resources toward that direction. So the numbers only can be helpful and your best friend, but for the qualitative approach, you see like few labels red, but we cannot differentiate which red is more harmful for me or for more my enterprise. Here, for example, the assets, some malicious actors are selling something on dark web. We see like your asset that cost millions could be somebody putting these things or this data or this information or these assets for sale, like for a few bucks, $5, $10, $20, but the impact on your side is severe and huge. Now we reach to scenario. I'm not good this one because it's related to the previous scenario, but we can take quickly, like we are here speaking the business language. $100 million for the annual revenue versus potential profit for cyber criminals. Imagine that who is the loser here? It's you. So you need to have better understanding of the bad actor, how they could undermine your enterprise assets, and they can sell all of these assets and this information on the dark web just for a very cheap amount of dollar to get profit. Right here, for For example, estimating the frequency of the certain event. The frequency we see when we are developing the scenario, there is a frequency for this kind of event specifically, not for all scenarios. So each scenario has different frequency. Each threat is associated with different frequency. Here, when we, the beauty of math, that we are not relying on a single number when we are doing the estimation. We do choosing the minimum value, most likely value, the maximum value from historical data. So our calculation now is based on probability, not based on labels, where you can now deal with the future better, and you have forward thinking and forward looking toward what could happen, like in case the best case materialized or the worst case has been materialized. Here, for example, we need to estimate the magnitude of loss. The loss here is not a single type. For example, in case of data theft, we have productivity, we have response, we have fine and judgment, we have reputational losses, we have so many hidden losses could impact our enterprise. Those who are looking or dealing with a qualitative risk approach, they are not looking at these things because they are satisfied with the label. Any person aware and interested to protect his enterprise and to protect his country from different levels, he should think one event could have subsequent events, could be cascaded to several entities, sorry, could be cascaded to several sectors. As such, the one risk event, once materialized and become a reality, it takes different shapes of losses, and we should be aware that these losses should be in our calculation and in our estimation to aggregate all kind of losses and say, okay, our loss will be cost us that much of money. Here, for example, when we doing some loss estimation magnitude of the loss estimation, you see like how many things that we could spend money on. For example, forensics, legal advice, notification costs, call center, credit monitoring, public relations, data replacement, cyber extortion, customer suits, PCI DSS fines, regulatory defense, fines and penalties, like 8-9 form of loss that could impact your enterprise, and those kind of potential losses could put your enterprise out of business due to your negligence or ignorance of kind of losses that will be materialized. Here, just I want to make the estimation process close to you. When we collect the data from the historical, from the process owners, from risk owner, from whoever within the enterprise, we expect to see like these ranges: 0, best case, worst case, and average. Whether the scenario is data theft or accidental disclosure. But now we are dealing with ranges. We are not dealing with one value. Dealing with one value means that you are not understanding risk. But those who are understanding risk, looking at value as a range or a set of values, continuous values, could be happen in any time based on my understanding, and this will improve my readiness. For the best case, I should not be that much worried. For the worst case, I should be taking or reserving some money to protect myself or protect my value against this kind of loss. Here, for the risk treatment, I'm just telling very generic examples because we are limited by time. I just want to close the imagination of when we reach to these numbers. Now we need to see what is the next step. The next step when we are able to visualize and estimate the losses on a certain scenario. Now we have to treat this risk. The treatment of this risk cannot be useful without having a thoughtful understanding to these numbers. And these numbers, for example, 318 dollar, 318K dollar for the worst case scenario can be treated with like 307K dollar. This will give us a visibility of our decisions, so we can accept the risk, so we can transfer the risk, so we can mitigate the risk and choose the proper control to protect the value at risk. Without having these numbers, what we are doing is nonsense if we are using the qualitative approach. But this approach will be helpful to let you or empower you and enable you to make a proper and thoughtful decision that protect value at risk within your enterprise. Here, for example, I'm almost done, but I'm just trying to giving you a good hint about what is the difference between the both approaches and why the quantitative is important. But for the full workshop, definitely things will be more deeply, and we can do some hands-on practice on a certain scenarios. I just want to highlight quickly people usually or the world usually prefer the buzzwords where he can feel confident he is protecting his enterprise. Most of companies still believe that maturity is the best way to do cybersecurity. And those who are claiming they have the most important, the most strongest, the most everything of security practices and security controls, they get breached and they get compromised the next day or the week after. Because still they are not realizing where are kind of threats that are materializing or exploiting the vulnerabilities within their enterprise. So just quickly to see the maturity based of doing everything, checking all the boxes available, it costs you much like 3 times of risk-based approach. Risk-based approach, now it gives you excellent sense where you need to put your resources by understanding your business, understanding where to put these resources, and these resources should be controlling the risk and the impact that affect and damage your enterprise. So you can minimize the damage where to the extent where you can accept that damage. And as we can see, it is a journey. We cannot move and just the arrow, the red arrow here. The quantitative is very, very example. So this is a very useful example. A quantitative approach is important to have a risk-based approach. Without using this approach, we will never have risk-based approach in our enterprises. For people who are doing maturity is good at certain level, but we cannot use it in everything. We need it in certain areas. For the risk-based, it gives us a better sense for control implementation, control effectiveness, control efficiency, and it drive return on investment. So we can maximize the value and benefit realization to our enterprises. Here is the fair model. This is my last slide, mainly. As we can see, the risk is divided into two sides. Let me start with the left side, the loss event frequency. How much this event is occurring every time, how many times, 2 times, 3 times, 5 times within the year. Such event now is divided to two things: the threat event frequency. The threat event frequency, now we need to understand contact frequency. Is it random? Is it regular? Is it intentional from the bad guys? And probability of action. What or how much the percent of the bad actor could be courageous to do certain exploitation against that asset. Now the right side from the left side, the vulnerability, threat capability. You see the threat community are starting from zero capability to the most sophisticated capabilities. And we need to understand their skills, their resources, and this kind of information can be found on the internet from the commercial companies who are providing the threat intelligence reports around the world. The other side for the vulnerability is resistance strength, which is the control. Does the asset resist the exploitation, and to which extent? If there is no control, means that this vulnerability is exploitable without any resistance. In this way, the technical side, it's help you to understand the threat landscape and who can have the power over your assets by exploiting them and get into your enterprise. The right side of this model, of this analytical model, is the losses or the loss magnitude. The loss magnitude, always we have primary loss, usually is associated with the asset at risk or value at risk. The secondary risk usually are coming from different or from as a result from the risk materialization. So we repeat now the left side, secondary loss event frequency, secondary loss magnitude. All of these things must be considered seriously, and you should not neglect any of these. And luckily that some people we say this is a very difficult model and how we can get data from there. It is just sufficient to work at this level. When we have data, more data, we can go to this level. The first abstraction layer is sufficient to do the scenario development and do some good estimation. The second abstraction layer, now it gives you more visibility about the impact, about the threat community, about the frequency of occurrence. If you go deeply to the third line or third abstraction line, definitely we are in good standing of protecting our enterprises, and we have good understanding to our defense capabilities within our enterprise, and our value at risk are protected, and our investment usually are justified to the leadership within the enterprise. I am done with my slides, but we have like in addition to our Jordan Fair Institute Jordan chapter, we have Fair Institute Middle East and Africa chapter. This chapter is part of the global network of chapters around the world to promote for fair model and associated practices and guidelines and frameworks and standards. And I hope you guys, you can join and learn. We will share so many useful things and articles and events related to this. It just wish you and I hope you are stay in communication, and feel free to send messages on this or queries or tag us with anything related, so we can create a collaborative platform to the benefit of everyone to protect our assets and our enterprises and our countries. And we have like less than 5 minutes. If there is any question you would like to ask me in this regard of the content of these slides, I would be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adham, for that presentation. For the
Pleasure.
questions, please, you feel free. The question and answer section is open, or if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand on the controls and we can be able to put the question to Mr. Adham. So feel free, please.
Meanwhile, we are waiting to receive some questions. This book is authored by Jack Jones and Jack Freund. Jack Jones was the founder of Fair Concept. He came to Jordan during March, participating in the summit, and he delivered excellent speech to the audience about the fair, and he inspired so many leaders, security leaders, who were attending the summit. If anybody interested to read more or learn more, this book can be helpful to dive deeply into the technical aspects of the fair model.
Yes, I can see Mr. Axel Sukam. I'll just open for you the mics that you can ask your question.
Yeah, please
and
go
then
ahead.
we'll go to Mr. Hussein. All right. Axel Sukam, you have the mic. You can ask your question.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hello?
Sorry?
Raise your voice, actually.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you for your presentation. When you were talking about prerequisites of scenario analysis approach, you told us that we need to conduct calibration exercise to ensure your stakeholders that the stakeholders are comfortable with estimates. I didn't really get what to do by that step.
Okay. Thank you for your question. The calibration is the process of being close to the required value. For example, you are measuring the wing of an airplane. Okay, usually regular airplane, one of its wings length is around 36 meter. If you are not familiar with the airplane and the length of the wing, right wing or the left wing, you could say it is maybe 15 meter. You could consult with the captain, you could consult with the cabin crew, you could consult with the engineer, you could consult with anybody and say, okay, I guess that my estimation to the airplane wing length is 15 meter. Is it true, or do you think it is realistic for my measurement? Maybe the technical engineer or the aircraft engineer, maintenance engineer say, okay, I am aware of this. I'm not sure exactly how much or so how many meter is the wing, but it could be between like 25 and 35 meter. Now you are doing re-estimation for the value. Same applies to the cybersecurity things, parameters. For example, for the frequency, for the magnitude, for the any parameter within the model, you do like initial value, then you can keep repeating until you reach some close to that value, not exact value. We are not aiming to reach to that exact value. We should not aim to that. For example, in my demo now for the wing, for the airplane wing, 36 meter is not our target. If you get for 30, you are perfect, because we are aiming at 95 accuracy. Is it now clear for you, or you need more?
It's clear for me. It's clear.
Okay, this is the process of calibration. You need to keep it continuous until we reach somewhere realistic and make sense to our calculation.
Right. Thank you for
very
that.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I will go to Mr. Hussein. I don't know if Mr. Hussein, you can ask your question.
Yeah, please go, Mr.
Salam alaikum. First, I would thank Mr. Adham about this meaningful presentation. And my question is, can you hear me?
Yeah, could you please raise your voice, because I can hear some noises in the background.
Okay. I said my question is about the two approaches between risk, qualitative risk and quantitative risk approaches. Can we consider that the risk management process in both approaches is the same? Like we can find, for example, in the ISO publications, the process of risk management, like context establishment, risk assessment, risk treatment, and so on. Is it the same risk management process applied in the quantitative approach? This is my first question.
Okay, I got your question. Thank you very much. Basically, I'm not underestimating the qualitative approach, but both approaches are important. But one is incomplete. You cannot, the qualitative approach cannot answer so many questions, and the quantitative will answer all of your questions. For the risk management process that mentioned in ISO standards, like you need to identify, you need to assess, you need to evaluate, you need to respond. It is the same cycle, because quantitative is a complementary, like it complete your work and give you the numbers and give you the visibility. By being an analytical model, the quantitative, you are dealing with the estimation, you do some calibration, and you feed your process. At the end, you are getting some result, but these results are backed by empirical data. And now we are not interfering in the process. We are just putting some analytical engine within the process. For example, you are doing some qualitative risk assessment, but maybe your management is satisfied by looking at these results and colorful heat map of green, red, yellow, amber, etc. But when you show them the quantitative result, they could change their minds. They could regret some decision they took in the past, because they took it in a wrong way, and they unfortunately they don't have enough visibility about the nature of risk. Now, quantitative approach, it helps you to enhance the decision-making process, and it will not change anything. You do things as usual, but you need to complete your work. Where you are unable to find answers, you need to think of a quantitative approach, because it will answer all of your questions definitely. I hope this satisfy you to your question, Mr. Hassan.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you answered me very well, so thank you for your answer. My second question, if you don't mind,
please go ahead.
Is about the maturity-based versus risk-based cybersecurity. As you are from Jordani and you have a lot of experience in the Jordani cybersecurity, what is the approach that is used in Jordani? Is it like maturity-based or risk-based approach?
No, thank you for your question. Actually, we are in Jordan. We are developing a first of its kind of framework that is risk-based and consider the quantitative approach in all of its aspects. We are not going for maturity because we are not advocating the compliance things. We are enemy of checking boxes. We don't need you to check box and tell us as a regulator, I checked all the boxes you asked me, and the next day you have some incident or severe incident, and you need the team to go to your side and help you in incident response. Checking boxes is the enemy of cyber defenders. The approach in Jordan is risk-based. The maturity you need where you need it specifically, not across everything. The maturity for the program is different for the maturity of the control. The quantitative approach, it will help you to which extent you need to reach. You should not be mature in everything. It varies based on the risk. If you have a severe risk and high impact, you should be mature and increase the control strength. This is our approach in a nutshell. But some companies around the world, they're doing maturity from A to Z. They are implement controls, even they don't need these controls. But when you base your approach based on the risk, you understand where to choose the maturity in certain area for the program based or for control based. I hope this answers your question again.
Thank you.
Questions?
My pleasure.
Any questions? So we can give Mr. Mohammed a chance to, because he has a very interesting slides now. If no questions, it's fine. Mohammed can take over with you.
That's fine with me, Mr. Adam. It's fine. Mr. Mohammed can take over. And once again, thank you so much for this presentation and even for answering the questions from the participants. And we believe it will continue the same also with Mr. Mohammed. One thing to everyone, the question and answer box, question and answer part is open, and you can write your questions therein. Also at the tail end of the presentation, you can also raise your hand to ask your questions. So feel free. And now we'll hand over the reins to Mr. Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed, take it over.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon and bonsoir in French. And thank you for being with us today. I know that some of you are celebrating Eid al-Fitr, so Eid Mubarak to all. Actually, I will start with a couple of slides, maybe to continue on what Adham mentioned, maybe to explain a little bit the Monte Carlo, although it was not planned in my slides, but a couple of slides more, which is not planned but readjusted, might be helpful now. So can you see my screen? Excellent.
Yes, Mr. Mohammed. Yes.
So to clear out the Monte Carlo or the quantification part, let's assume that we are celebrating like Christmas, Eid, or any wonderful event like this, and we want to calculate the risk of, let's say, having more calories. Let's assume that we are attending parties during those Eid holidays or Eid days, and in each party we are eating some cookies, and each cookie is having, let's say, a certain amount of calories. So in the qualitative risk management, what we used to do, actually, we assume, or we go estimate how many times, how many parties we attend. And if we're attending, for example, 2 to 3 parties, we assume, let's say, 2 parties, and in each party we eat let's say between 4 to 5, 6 calories. So we put like 5 calories, 5 cookies. And because each cookie is having maybe 50 calories, we calculate that the risk of attending parties in Eid holidays is 500 calories, because we take 2 parties as a rough estimate, and each party we will eat 5 cookies, and each cookie is having 50 calories. This is what we usually do in qualitative risk management. Because we are not using Monte Carlo, but there are some uncertainties. Am I right? Because, and this is the fact of risk management. Risk management is uncertainty, and the uncertainty or the major cause of uncertainty is actually the ignorance. So sometimes we ignore that some Eids, some holidays, we go to 3 parties, not 2. Or sometimes because we feel sick, maybe we go to only 1 party. And in some parties, we eat up to 10 cookies. Some parties, we don't like the cookies, so we eat only 1. Some cookies will be very heavy calories, so they have maybe 100 calories instead of 50 calories. All those that type of, let's say, probabilities, we ignore, okay? So we talk about point estimates instead of ranges. But if we look at what might be the fact in the last maybe 5-10 years of us attending those parties, some Eids, some holidays we attended 1, maximum we attended 4, let's say, parties. Some parties we did like 4 cookies only. In some parties we did up to 8 cookies. Some cookies might have very low calories, 35 calories. Some cookies that we did in the last I don't know, 5, 6, 7 Eids, we did up to 120 calorie per cookie. This is actually when Adham mentioned that we do estimation. So if we are talking about cybersecurity here, and we look at some scenarios, for example, how many times we have been exposed to a ransomware attack. I'm not talking about how many times the ransomware attack succeeded. I'm talking about how many times the ransomware attack was we exposed to, succeeded or not. I'm not talking about this. How many times it happened? Okay, so if we have some data, we will say, like, let's say between 1 times to 4 times we have been this type of attack, or exposure. And for example, when we're talking about, let's say, how many systems that might be exposed to an attack, let's say we have 5 Windows machines, and maximum we will have only those 5 Windows machines might be exposed to this specific attack. So this is where actually we put the ranges, okay? So when we say we have a range of attending parties, we have a range between 1, because we usually do at least 1 party, and maximum we can do 4. So this is the range. Now, most probably we do 2 per Eid or 2 per holiday. When we say like cookies, I know myself, I don't eat less than 4 cookies. So I know that the range will be between 4, and maximum I do 8. I cannot actually do more than 8, but most probably, most of the times in the last 5, 10, 11 years of Eid, celebrating Eid, I'm doing around 5. Okay. The cookies, I know the cookies. So in I don't know, in Algeria, in Egypt, in Tanzania, in Kenya, the cookie that we usually do in those parties is a low calories. It's 35 calorie per cookie, and the maximum this type of sweet that we do in Eid or in party or something will go up to 120, but most probably it's around 50, and this is where we calibrate. So this is how we deal with ranges when we talk about risk quantification. And when we do those type of risk quantification, we say that minimum I do 1 party for cookies and 80 calories, because this is one example, which is 320 calories. And maximum I do, for example, 3 parties, 7 cookies, 40 calories, 840. If you look at them, all those are ranges. So I might do 1 party, and I do 8 cookies, and each one of those cookies is 120 calories. So those are all probabilities. Am I right? So we cannot just do the very old way of doing this: 2 parties, 5 cookies, 50 calories. This is a point estimate. In cyber risk quantification, because we are not dealing with high, medium, low, we're not dealing with red, blue, green, we do ranges. That's why we have more a possibility to talk to the business leaders with more quality of information, or information quality, which can help them actually do their job. Hopefully, I try to explain the Monte Carlo tool and how this can go into ranges instead of points. And of course, this is something that maybe can be discussed in a very a dedicated session, because it's difficult to explain it in a very a quick session like this. So I'm back now to my slides, and if you have any questions, I will hopefully we will have 5 to 10 minutes to answer them after I finish my slides. So I will ask first, like the cyber security. It's a very big, very buzzword. Everyone is using this term. People are misusing, to be honest, this term also. And cyber security is, by any means, it's attached to IT. I mean, most of us, when they hear cybersecurity, the IT jumps into their mind, and they start actually thinking only technology. And unfortunately, this is not, to be honest, the right approach, especially if we know that the cybersecurity problem is like very, very big. And the cyber criminals, they are doing a huge business out of it. And if you know that the cyber criminal economy across the world is larger even than the economy of the United States itself. So just dealing with cybersecurity as a technology problem, to be honest, is a naive thing, and it will not lead us to anywhere as a national defender. So cybersecurity is it a CISO or CEO risk? To be honest, the answer for this question is not even a CEO risk. It's international. It's a national risk. So everyone should be responsible of protecting himself, protecting his company, organization, his nation, and his international access, actually. So usually when we talk about risk, we discuss things related to political, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal also. And because we are living the world of digital transformation. So the industry itself is melting. The industries are changing. So we look at those risks, which is industrial based, and of course we need to consider what we call the military acts and those risks. Now, if you look at cybersecurity, it's affecting and affected by all those type of risks. I mean, with this cyber security attacks, or with those attacks, attackers, hackers, bad guys, they can possess a political position. They can destroy social relations, environmental, industry. It's heavily used by the military, and in the military act, it can destroy our economy. And as I said, it is by itself is economical approach. Cyber criminals are building a huge economy out of it. It's business, although legal. So the traditional way of doing cybersecurity, to be honest, is not proper, and that's why we are promoting what we call the cyber economics, because at organization level, most of us, when they adopt or build a cybersecurity program, they start looking at things related to, for example, NIST, ISO, CIS, and other frameworks to build their cybersecurity programs. VCI DSS, if you're talking about, let's say, things related to financial, if you're talking about banking, you will see frameworks like the SWIFT frameworks and many others. If you're talking about telecommunication, you will find like a specific ISO standard, which is talking about telecommunication, and many others. Unfortunately, all those, they really didn't provide the return of investment. And those who are going or adopting the approach of control-based, or control the maturity of the controls, they end up doing what we can see in the picture here. They do things, they comply with them, they make sure that they are really fully compliant with them during the audit. Before the audit, this is the situation. During the audit, this is the situation, and after the audit, this is the situation. So we go back to the era, or to the period where we didn't really comply, and that's why most of the cybersecurity leaders who responded to a very well-known like survey done by Gartner, and I keep repeating those type of answers. They asked them, do you believe that you have a good cybersecurity programs? Only 60% answered that yes, we have a good cybersecurity program. And when they asked them again, do you believe that your cybersecurity program is defensible? Only 10% answered this, answered with yes. And as we define the good cybersecurity program, it's the program, the defensible one is the one that will help you defend against your shareholder, against your stakeholders, regulators, so you can justify your investment in cybersecurity technology, cybersecurity processes, and many others. Because whatever, and you know it, guys, whatever you're doing, you will be attacked, you will be compromised, and once you will be compromised, there will be a financial loss. Hopefully, there will be no casualties, but we are really exposed to those type of attacks. And whatever the organization that you are working in, or working with, or for, you will not have this type of like a machine to print dollars. So you can buy all the technologies that you believe you will need, or buy all the tools. And if you're having this technology, this printer that will print dollars, you will not have a machine to print people or to create people. So you can do the implementations, do the processes that you would like to do. And if you are having both, you will not be having this machine which will stop the time. So you will buy everything, and then you will create people to do what you want, or what you bought, or what you want to do before the attacker. So by any means, you will be always running and growing and transforming with very limited resources. So every organization will be in one of those three stages: either running their operations without any like grow plans, or grow like initiatives, or it will be like running and growing, but maybe they are not thinking about transformation, or even if they are doing transformation, you will be always running with limited resources. Sometimes money, and budget. Sometimes you have all the budget, but you don't have the resources. Sometimes you don't have the time. You will always be running with limited resources. So it's very critical to select the most effective controls. And when Mr. Adham mentioned that we in Jordan, we are adopting the risk-based, not the maturity-based. He was talking about the controls, because we want, of course, every organization to get mature, and we assess the maturity of the organization, but we don't assess the maturity of the control, because some of the controls we don't need them. This is what Adham mentioned. You might have the CIS controls, or the 27,000, the ISO controls. You might not need them all. So why I should invest in maturity of this control if this maturity of this control is not really helping me? What I'm looking for is the maturity of my organization, not the maturity of all the controls that I'm having. So what you have to do is to select the most effective controls. And by the way, the national the Jordanian framework is based on what we call it SELECT, strategic, enterprise-driven, livable, economical, control-based, capability-based, and trustable. So here in this presentation, we're focusing on three of them, which is the enterprise-driven, economical, and trustworthy, because at the end, any control that you need to back, actually, for your organization need to be enterprise-driven, coming from the need of your enterprise, your organization, not the need of complying with ISO 27 or NIST or CIS or any other framework. Yes, your enterprise might need them all. We don't say that those frameworks are not good. No, they are coming actually from best practices. So your enterprise might need all those controls, and you need to adopt them all. But sometimes your enterprise might not need them all, or sometimes your enterprise might need to have a very specific maturity in one of those controls, not all of them. So always look at the maturity of the organization, not the maturity of the control. And this can be achieved, I mean, the maturity of the organization cannot be achieved without a very deep enterprise-driven risk management, okay? Risk-based approach. And of course, the most economical control approach for your organization, because most of the time, the technology leaders, I mean, companies working in technology, they will push for technology products. And unfortunately, those technology products are not really economical. Okay, they are very expensive to do POC, very expensive to run them, very expensive to grow them, very expensive to support them. They might be very helpful, but they might be very like, I don't know how to say this. They might not be really adding the value for your organization, or at least they might not do the positive return of investment or the ROI for those technologies. So you need to be able to judge based on a very systematic approach, which type of control, technology, process, people, whatever, is the one that I will apply, and how this will help me based on my enterprise economical to get the control, which will put me in a situation so I can defend my position against the shareholder, the stakeholders, my customers. So when I will have this compromisation, or let's say when I will have this attack, I will clearly stand and say, this is based on my capacity, budget, judgment, decision making, systematic decision making. This is the control that I selected. And unfortunately, we got this attack because it's beyond my my control, beyond my capacity, beyond my budget. And then your regulator, shareholder, stakeholder, boss will tell you, thank you. You did your best. This is a very difficult thing. So you need really to adopt a very specific approach, which can help you do this. And this cannot be done without actually a bit what we call it business risk management, not IT risk management. And that's why we say scenario. When Adham mentioned scenarios, he was mentioning the business scenario. What might the business impact if this scenario happened? We are not talking about the technology scenario. The server went down, the PC went down, the data is not available, or the confidentiality, integrity. We don't talk about this. We're talking about the business impact. Okay, so that's why we're talking about business risk management. So if we don't do business risk management, the gap between those guys on the right and this guy who's talking about cybersecurity or cyber risk management will become large and large. And we need to to speak a language which those guys can understand. The CEO can understand, the CFO, the board members, the auditor, but keep talking about things which is a very technical things, like what usually the CISO or the CRO is doing, will not help us actually to bridge this gap between which, as I mentioned, between the business and the IT leaders or cybersecurity leaders. And unfortunately, the traditional way of doing risk management is really creating more and more gaps, because the language that we are using is the risk is very high. Or if we can put a label for it, we will put like a label which is red. And sometimes we use like number label, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people are more mature, so they put like let's say if it's over than 50 million, okay, it's red. If it's less than 50 million, it's moderate. But as you can see, it's when we talk about those now, if it's above 50 million, it might be 51, it might be 100 million. So based on what we are putting those type of controls, because the ranges that we are using in the qualitative risk management is, as I said, in the calories and cookies. Okay, so the approach of the cyber risk quantification and the FAIR is more towards what we call effective risk management. And the effective risk management means to be very to be more accurate, and of course, if we can, more precise. And this is where you can do or use the FAIR model, or the model that mentioned by Adham, which is factor analysis of information risk, which is using Monte Carlo tools to give the most meaningful measurement, which leads to the most effective conversion and the cost-effective decisions to do the effective risk management, which is the main responsibility of the business leaders, not the IT leaders. I mean, the one who's taking the decision to give you the budget for cybersecurity is the CEO. Unfortunately, when we talk to the CEO, we go to the CEO and we tell them, please give me this budget because I will reduce the risk this way. This is wrong. We don't do this. Actually, if we speak this language, like I want you to give me budget because I have a technology problem I want to solve. It's now you are talking to the CEO, telling them that it's it's my problem. Cybersecurity is not my problem as a CISO. Cybersecurity is the problem of as a CEO, or maybe the national leader, or the governor, and maybe above. So actually, I should ask it differently. I will tell the CEO that, Mr. CEO, you have a risk on your business. You have, not I have. You have the risk at your business, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on the Monte Carlo that Adam explained, and we will explain more. And the right control that you need to apply, not mine, you need to apply for this is this. And this control will cost you this. Because the one who's the ultimate accountable for the risk and the business, of course, is the CEO. And this is what I used to do actually when I was in like a CDO or CISO in the previous organization, very large enterprises that I worked with. I go to my CEO, tell them that you need to allocate this budget to protect your organization. Okay, I'm not relieving myself from accountability or responsibility, but I know that the responsibility of allocating the budget is the CEO responsibility. As a CISO or CIO, my responsibility is to spend this budget wisely. This is a very critical one. So it's my responsibility as a CISO or a CIO or a CRO, actually, to put all the information, the accurate information, the most professional information for the decision maker to take the decision. So this is my role. His role is to allocate the budget. Once he allocates the budget, it's my role as a CISO or CIO to spend it wisely, okay, based on the information that I provided to the CEO. This is a very critical one. And I used to have like a discussion, my CEO telling me, why you are asking me to take the decision? You take the decision. I used to tell him, no, I cannot take the decision. I can give you all the information to take the decision of the budget. I can take the decision on my department, directorate, whatever, to manage it. So I take the decision, Windows or Unix, Palo Alto or Fortinet. This is a decision on my level. but the decision how much we will put as budget for the organization or the risk appetite, it's not my decision. It's your decision. That's why you are taking maybe 3 or 4 times of my salary. You got me? So, because if I am the CISO or the CRO and I have the decision actually to allocate budget, I will allocate as much as I want. But this is not the fact. This is actually the responsibility and the accountability of the CEO, not mine. But of course, as we said, we don't relieve ourselves from accountability and responsibility. It's your responsibility of us to provide a very detailed data information for the decision maker to be able to take his decision. How much risk do we have? What are the our top risks? How the risk is trending, appetite, and those type of things, which is articulated in dollars and quantity, so he can take the decision. So, and based on what we saw from Adham, based on what I tried to say, actually, if you will be asked, and if you're having the same investment, I mean, if you will do the same investment in this car or that car, the red and the old, which one you will pick? No one, of course, will pick the very old, maybe rubbish. I don't know if it's working or not. Okay, we'll pick the red, fast, maybe a new car, because I'm investing it the same. The qualitative and quantitative risk management, if you compare them to each other, the way we usually do risk management, which is a traditional way, even if we are doing up to 10 levels, although I didn't see anyone who's doing 10 levels, most of the time we are doing 3 levels, high, medium, low, which is 3 times 3, or sometimes I can see 5 times 5. But even if we are doing 10 levels, it's still not quantitative. It's still labels. It's still wide ranges. It's still not very effective tool for the business leaders to take decisions. And this is not actually, it's, I can say, now everyone is moving towards cyber risk quantification. The US government is moving towards this, and they're talking about the FAIR model. Gartner is talking about this. Maybe those who see the ISO 27 and 22, they replaced the assess to measure. And I believe, Hussein, you were mentioning this, and I don't know if you are Hussein from Algeria that I met in Nairobi or not, but maybe you can discuss this during the questions. But even the risk management, which is mentioned in the ISO 27 and 2022, they are replacing the assess to measure. So if we believe that quantitative is really good, why we are still doing qualitative? And maybe Adham showed the FAIR model, and I will focus a little bit on the wing, which is related to loss magnitude, because as the cybersecurity leaders, I believe you are more familiar with those type of things, which is vulnerability and the threat event frequency, the attack capabilities, and those type of things that mentioned by Adham. But in this part of the presentation, I will go deeper into this part, which is related to loss magnitude. And as I mentioned, as Adham mentioned, the secondary risk and the primary losses. This is where we as a cyber risk leaders or cyber risk professionals, we usually don't focus on this, unfortunately, because this is more towards the business, towards understanding our business. Now, the FAIR model explained 6 types of losses, which is productivity loss, the replacement, the response, the competitive advantage, repetition advantage, repetition damage, and also the fines and judgment. If you look at those type of losses, which is mentioned by the FAIR, and the FAIR model is asking you actually to dig down, dig deep, analyze your business, and try to understand for each scenario what type of productivity loss you will have, what type of replacement losses you will have, how much you will spend on the response. I mean, I have attack, which is a ransomware attack. What type of responses I need to implement? Of course, I paid the ransom or I didn't pay the ransom. I don't want to go to this. How much I will pay? And in case, let's say, I'm having a response mechanism after this attack will happen, what I have to do? Is this will introduce competitive advantage damages or not? Repetition and fines and judgment. To be able to give a very detailed cyber risk quantification information for the decision maker to be able to give you the budget, or for you, once you receive the budget, spend it wisely so you can justify your situation once the attacker hit you. Okay, you need to be able to identify each one of those losses, their scenario, and always you need to do a very deep analysis of the loss magnitude of the data and the information and services. Now, some people they're talking about, when we analyze the loss magnitude, we need to talk about, or we need to consider the loss of people or casualty. Yes, this is right, but for us as a cybersecurity, I'm not talking about law enforcement and public safety here. I'm talking about cybersecurity leaders. We need to analyze what type of service, that if that service is compromised, the consequence might be a casualty. I mean, if we are working on like a critical infrastructure and someone managed actually to disrupt or to compromise the service of the water demineralization unit, and because we didn't do this type of demineralization or mineralization, 50 people get poisoned or something like this. This is a consequence of a service which is interrupted, because we need to understand that our accountability, responsibility is not like the responsibility of maybe the policeman who's protecting people from fire guns. You got me, accident. So the service or the data compromisation, if we're protecting those, we're protecting the impacted, which is lives and financial economics. This is very, very critical, because sometimes it might be a conflicting messages. And when you do analyzing the organization, most of the people, they start analyzing the technology. Unfortunately, this is not a live or interactive session, but I usually ask people on seminars, are we usually analyzing technology, or we analyze people, process, and technology? And most of the time, the people, they say, no, we analyze people, process, and technology. We analyze PPT. And to be honest, I get like offended when someone tell me that we have to analyze people, process, and technology. Or some companies, they used to come to me when I was on the other side of the table as a CISO or CIO for large entities. They're telling me we are the only company who are doing an analysis of people, process, technology. People, process, technology is not enough, because if you are analyzing the PPT, you're analyzing only 50% of the organization. The organization is having more artifacts than the PPT. We should analyze 6 artifacts, not 3 only. We used to analyze the goals and strategic objectives, the policies, processes, roles, responsibilities, things and materials, location and geography, event and trigger. So when someone is telling me that I am analyzing not only technology, I'm analyzing people, process, technology, you're analyzing 3, which is how, who, and what. What about where? What about why? What about when? So if you are doing PPT, you're doing only 50%. The organization is more complex. It's a very, very complex one, and need to be looked at the 3 artifacts into 5 levels. I don't want to go into this very, very deep, but in this session, I might have only 5 minutes more. We need to do like a very systematic analysis of the complex organization, and it starts with analyzing the structure. When I ask people, what's the organization structure you have? They jumped and tell me that we have this structure. And I used to ask them, okay, but what other organization structure you have? They tell me, no, we have only one organization. So I jump and I ask them, guys, did I ask you about the HR organization structure? I'm asking about the organization structure. HR organization structure is one of those structures, one of many. And to be honest, the HR organization structure is not enough, because the organization structure, which is only mentioning the HR, to be honest, it's even deceiving us when we do cybersecurity. I ask them, if you are not having a goal organization structure, how you can build your KPI structure? I mean, key performance indicator. If you don't have like goal structure, similar, or let's say, and another structure for HR, another structure for the service, another structure for the cost, then you cannot build them. You cannot understand. You cannot say that I understand the organization that I'm protecting. So usually, and this is what we have actually, maybe the only like framework doing this or mandating this is the Jordanian framework. We are mandating 6 types of structures other than the HR, which is the process, the things, the location, the time, and also the key risk structure. So the first thing to be able to do, like cybersecurity economics, cybersecurity approach, which will put you in a very defensible program, or allow you to have a defensible program. Yes, this is what I did, and I can defend my decisions, and my boss will say thank you, even if I am compromised. You have to start with building those structures to be able to analyze your organization very well. And we all maybe know this song, which is for the want of a nail, the kingdom fall down. So it started with this guy who's doing a nail on the horse, and the result was losing the kingdom, because the horse fall down, the message with the soldier fall down, and then the commander lost the battle, and then the king lost the kingdom. So it's, if we don't have really a key risk indicator structure. Key risk indicator is not a list of key risks in Excel sheet or even on a system like Archer or Metric Stream. It's a structure. So if you don't have it, a very systematic, very well documented, like what you are doing for the HR organization structure, so you're not doing your job to do effective risk management. And of course, the systematic analysis of complex organization will need modeling. You need to invest in modeling. So the modeling is actually how you use I will reduce a little bit the voice. So if you don't invest in modeling in IT or even in OT, OT is much. So modeling is a very critical tool to do risk management and cyber risk quantification. And unfortunately, it's not really adopted by cybersecurity leaders. Although I hear many times that we are doing threat modeling. But sorry, guys, if you are doing threat modeling or investing in threat modeling tools or investing for, I don't know, consultancy for threat modeling, and you're not really doing a business modeling, so how come you're doing threat modeling? I mean, if you are modeling the threat, you need to model the threat which is against your business. So if you're not doing business modeling, sorry, you're not doing threat modeling, and all the investment that you're doing is wasted, and you will not be able to defend the budget invested, budget time and effort. And if you can see the attackers, the bad guys, they are always investing in models. So if you can see in the picture here, those guys actually, we used to love them, and this is unfortunately a problem, where the attackers, they look nice, they look neat, they are the most beautiful ladies, they are the most handsome guys. They are doing modeling. If you can see here, they invest in modeling, even if they are, and sometimes they are investing in heavy technologies like digital twin to model the location where they will attack. And we, as defenders, we don't invest in modeling. And it's a shame that the most or the only known business language for modeling, which is the Archimate, is not known for most of us. Most of us, we didn't know even about the Archimate language for business modeling, which is the only business modeling language available, which is free from the open group, and we're not using it. So some people, they ask me, yeah, but why as cybersecurity leaders, we don't have the expertise to invest in modeling and to learn modeling? And I used to tell them, guys, for the organization, you don't need actually to segregate or separate the business modeling from the digital transformation journey, because any organization and most of our organizations actually, they are now going towards what we call a digital transformation journey. If you are doing digital enablement or digital business optimization or digital business transformation, and unfortunately many people, they don't understand the difference between the optimization and the transformation. unfortunately. And most of the initiatives that I saw worldwide is optimization, not transformation. Either way, if you are adopting any one of them, enablement, optimization, or transformation, you have to do business modeling, because the digital business optimization is very required for modeling the business artifact. And the digital transformation, as you know, digital business transformation means innovation focused on disruption. So if you need to disrupt something, you need to model it. You need to model the business value chain to be able to disrupt it. So digital transformation journey and cybersecurity are really very integrated strategies. If you're looking from that point of view, the digital transformation objective is to do data monetization, monetize the data, get money out of data. And the cybersecurity main objective is to do data protection. From service point of view, the digital transformation objective is to transform the service. From cybersecurity, we are looking at service resiliency. So usually, if you do this business modeling, you will be able to say that I am doing digital transformation, or you can say that you will be able to do digital transformation. Because for me, if you're not doing business modeling, then trust me, you will not be able to do digital transformation. And also, if you're doing business modeling, you will be able to understand the business. And if you understand the business, you can protect the business. And this is where we connect both the digital transformation and cybersecurity strategies by classifying the data, monetizing the data, by identifying the services, enabling the services, optimizing it, or transforming it. It's integrated strategy. And if you manage to do this, you will be able to be, as a cybersecurity leader, very effective, helping and boosting the digital transformation, not a bottleneck. Because unfortunately, most of the time, the cybersecurity leader, they have this like stereotyping or image that they are the blockers. Cybersecurity leaders are not the blockers. If they understand this, they are not the blockers. We are the boosters of the digital transformation. And we help nations on a nation level to build what we call a digital business index, digital citizen index, and connect it to the cybersecurity maturity index. So quantification is a very critical, like a component to boost the digital transformation strategy, and also to be able to protect our organization, nation, enterprise, company effectively and economically. This is my presentation for today, and I took maybe 2 minutes more, but hopefully you enjoyed this. And if you have any question, I'm ready actually for any type of question.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you very much for the presentation and for really breaking it down to us. And now we open the floor to questions. I think we'll take a few questions. Just we will extend it by another 5-6 minutes. We'll take it for another 5-6 minutes. Please, if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and then we'll be able to take your question to the floor. Anyone with a question? Yes, Mr. Hussein, let me give you, you can ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum. Eid Mubarak Ustad Muhammad. And this is me. Yeah, you are not wrong. And for my question, I will start with the first one about the Monte Carlo model. Is it the main model used in the risk quantification approach? And is there any other models like you can adopt for the risk quantification approach?
Yes, there are many other models, but as Adham, Monte Carlo is the mostly known to be used with the FAIR model. But as Adham mentioned, we were not looking for like 100% accurate and precise and those type of things, because we don't, to be honest, we don't need to be dragged into too much analysis. I mean, of course, we don't want actually to stop at 5 levels of qualitative risk management, or let's say 10 levels, but also we don't need to be dragged into very deep analysis, because we need to make sure that we are done doing enough to reach to our objective. I mean, some people, and I saw it, and it's one of the, to be honest, the counter measures. They say that the quantitative risk management is a very like heavy, deep, overwhelming process. And when we start digging down with their type of approach, we look, we saw them doing like one scenario, but they are investing a huge amount of time and effort to reach to a very precise, accurate data, and they neglect and they ignore that they need to analyze more scenarios, okay, than just digging into one scenario and trying to get very deep data for it. Yani, hopefully I managed to explain that Monte Carlo is enough. There might be other, yes, of course, but the FAIR is adopting the Monte Carlo, and I believe it's enough, because we don't need to be dragged into too much analysis.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying this point. May I read another question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. About the FAIR model, as cybersecurity leader, what do I need as resources or skills or background knowledge to implement this model at organizational level?
Yeah, Hussein, I believe if you want to be a very good cybersecurity leader on an organization, enterprise, or even on a national level, you need to invest in understanding your business.
Okay.
And to be able to understand your business very well, you need to adopt a systematic approach, which is start creating structures. And you can start with the 6 structures. You have one at least, which is the HR or the structure. You need to invest on the other 5, and of course some other, like for example, in my company, we are having what we call it the Octobian pyramid, which is 16 structure. So you can go up to create 16 structure. This is one, and also to invest in the modeling. I mean, to learn about the language, which is Archimate language, the business modeling language, which is Archimate. Because using a language, it's a free, of course, it's open from the open group. Using a language will force you actually to go systematic. you can analyze the business or reach to what we call the DNA of your organization without using alchemy, but having alchemy will help you actually to go systematic and to have a language which can be used on a national level, because it's open and universal language. So if you are working on a national level, if you ask your, let's say, banks to adopt, and also, for example, the telco or the oil and gas, so they all can speak one language. Of course, myself and you, Hussein, maybe we can, in one organization, or because we know each other, we can develop our own language to understand or to, but this language will be used only between me and you. You got me? What I'm saying is, in your organization, you can analyze the business without doing a modeling using Archimate. You can create your own modeling language. But to go like to be able to use it with your ecosystem, the people working with you, companies working with you, it's like a big advantage to use a common language, open language, universal language like Archimate. And of course, the fair, it's you can attend the training course, workshops, and you get yourself like more and more experience with this Monte Carlo and the fair model. This is normal.
All right, good. Thank you. You almost answered my third question about the structures. Yeah, the structures. So it's the responsibility of the CISO to elaborate all these different structures.
No, to be honest,
it's HR. Yeah.
No, to be honest, it's the responsibility of the organization. It's the responsibility of everyone in the organization. But because Hussein, now you attended the session with us, myself and Adham, so you know about the value of the structure. So now it became your responsibility to spread this knowledge.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for your answers, Dr. Mohammed. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much.
It's our pleasure.
Right. Any more questions? Any more questions? We can take one more question if there is. Yes, Axel, 1 minute and you can ask your question. Hello, Axel?
It's muted. Yeah.
No, she's, yeah. All right, Axel.
Please, my question is about key risk indicator structure.
Yes.
I want to know how should a company start defining key risk indicators?
Yeah, if you saw the the slide which is mentioning for the want of a nail, the song which is like because the nail fall down, the kingdom fall down. Actually, I don't know if we are pronouncing the name well. Actually, is it the right pronunciation? Axel. Yeah. So Axel, to be honest, when I see some people saying that we have a key risk indicator, and they are mentioning the rest, which is on enterprise level, the highest level, I get like offended, because the one who's putting the nails on the horseshoe is having his own key risks. Am I right? So everyone in the organization is having key risk indicator. Okay. Unfortunately, we take the key risk and indicators as the risks which can be seen only by the CEO. This is wrong. Because who's the most accountable for the risk of the kingdom falling down. The king, am I right? But of course, that king cannot see the risk, which is the nail of the horse, am I right? So the one who's putting the nail in the horse is having many risks. Some of them are key. You got me? And the soldier who's carrying the message is having many risks. Some of them are key. And go on up to the king. So when I will do like key risk indicator structure, I will ask every employee department to participate in this. Because at the end, the one who's protecting you, Axel, is the one who's managing that risk. You get me? So hopefully this explained to you. So now some systems, because I worked with many of them, like they do a case, they call it top-down risks and bottom-up risks. But unfortunately, they spend millions on systems to do those use cases, but they don't have this structure. So they buy a solution, I don't know, from, I don't want to name companies, technology companies, they buy solutions, and those solutions, they are having a use case called top-down, another use case which is called bottom-up, but what they will fill in that one? You get me? Anyway, we will share with you actually the FAIR chapter, the Middle East FAIR and Africa FAIR chapter on LinkedIn, and of course we can do like different discussions on this. And part of our because we established this chapter in Middle East and Africa, we will continue doing like seminars like this or webinars, and we will be interested to know if some of you in their countries, they are looking to establish like a fair chapter for the countries that you belong to, so we can help you as on a regional level to start doing those with the materials and maybe the training and those type of things. So we will send you some type of information regarding the FAIR chapter, the Middle East and Africa chapter, and how you can start your chapters locally in the countries that you belong to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So I think having done an extra 20 minutes past the scheduled time, 4 p.m. So I'd like to close it off here. I would like to thank our two guest speakers, Mr. Dami Toom and Mr. Mohammed Abdurrahim. Thank you so much for your time, for actually making it to participate in this webinar and to share your knowledge and your experiences with everyone who has attended. I also want to thank all the participants who have spared their time in being able to join us and the participation you have shown. I believe and I hope that it has been a wonderful session and one that you have gained something from. As in all webinars, the webinar will be, the recorded version will be sent out to all of you in your links and everything, you will have it. So I think with that, without much more to add, I believe we can close it off here and say, have a great afternoon. Yes, Mr. Hussein, you have a question?
No, sorry. It was the wrong tab.
No problem. So I believe with that, we can call it off for the day. And would say thank you once more to all of you. It has been a pleasure, and we look forward to the next webinar, where in the discussion we will bring in more speakers and we will be able to add even more to this that we have spoken. You can reach out to me. My email is there. I think I reached out to all of you. You can reach out to me and we'll be able to share more information, all the documentation, how to reach Mr. Adam, how to reach Mr. Mohammed, and we'll be able to take this discussion further.
Yes,
Thank you so
sure.
much, and have a wonderful remaining part of your day.